Today's day 283. 283 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's get started. Let's give this video more views, please. Because apparently it works. Anyways, we're on page 418, and I have no idea where I read it to, so I'll just read from the start. Possibly, it is only accessible at 5:30 in the morning, or it may only appear at the quarter moon, or when the seeker has an exceptionally full bladder. Harry snorted into his plate of goulash. Percy frowned, but Harry could have sworn Dumbledore had given him a very small wink. Meanwhile, Fleur Delacour was criticizing the Hogwarts decorations to Roger Davies. "This is nothing," she said dismissively, looking around at the sparkling walls of the great halls. "At the Palace of Bookspadins, we have ice sculptures all around the dining chamber at Christmas. They do not melt, of course. They are like huge statues of diamond, glittering around the place, and the food is simply superb. And we have choirs of wood nymphs who serenade us as we eat. We have none of this ugly armor in the halls, and if a poltergeist ever entered into Bookspadins, it would be expelled like that." She slapped her hand onto the table impatiently. Roger Davies was watching her talk with a very dazed look on his face. He kept missing his mouth with his fork. Harry had to take the impression that Davies was too busy staring at Fleur to take in the words she was saying. "Absolutely right," he said quickly, slapping his own hand down on the table in imitation of Fleur. "Like that, yeah." Harry looked around the hall. Hagrid was sitting at one of the other staff tables. He was back in his horrible hairy brown suit and gazing up at the top table. Harry saw him, gave a small wave, and looked around. Saw Madame Maxime return, her opals glittering in the candlelight. Hermione was now teaching Crumb to say her name properly. He kept calling her Hermione, she said slowly and clearly. Hermione. "Close enough," she said, catching Harry's eyes and grinning. When all the food had been consumed, Dumbledore stood up and asked the students to do the same. Then, with a wave of his wand, all the tables zoomed back along the walls, leaving the floor clear. And then he conjured a raised platform into existence along the right wall. A set of drums, several guitars, a lute, a cello, and some bagpipes were set upon it. The weird sisters now trooped onto the stage to wildly enthusiastic applause. They were all extremely hairy and dressed in black robes that had been artfully ripped and torn. They picked up their instruments, and Harry, who had been so interested in watching them that he had almost forgotten what was coming, suddenly realized that the lanterns on the other tables had gone out, and that the other champions and their partners were standing up. "Come on," Parvati hissed. "We're supposed to dance." Harry tripped over his dress robes as he stood up. The weird sisters struck up a slow, mournful tune. Harry walked onto the brightly lit dance floor, carefully avoiding catching anyone's eye. He could see Seamus and Dean waving at him and sniggering. And next moment, Parvati had seized his hands, placed one around her waist, and was holding the other tightly with hers. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, Harry thought, revolving slowly on the spot. Parvati was staring. He kept his eyes fixed over the heads of the watching people, and soon many of them too had come onto the dance floor, so that the champions were no longer the center of attention. Neville and Ginny were dancing nearby. He could see Ginny wincing frequently as Neville trod on her feet, and Dumbledore was waltzing with Madame Maxime. He was so dwarfed by her that the top of his pointed hat barely tickled her chin. However, she moved very gracefully for a woman so large. Mad-Eye Moody was doing an extremely ungainly two-step with Professor Sinistra, who was nervously avoiding his wooden leg. "Nice socks, Potter," Moody growled as he passed, his magical eyes staring through Harry's robes. "Oh, yeah, Dobby the house elf knitted them for me," said Harry, grinning. "He is so creepy," Parvati whispered as Moody clunked away. "I don't think that eye should be allowed." Harry heard the final, quivering note from the bagpipe with relief. The weird sisters stopped playing. Applause filled the hall at once. More. And Harry let go of Parvati at once. "Let's sit down, shall we?" "Oh, but this is really good one," Parvati said as the weird sisters struck up a new song, which was much faster. "No, I don't like it," Harry lied, and he led her away from the dance floor, past Fred and Angelina, who were dancing so exuberantly that people around them were backing away in fear of injury, and over to the table where Ron and Padma were sitting. "How's it going?" Harry asked Ron, sitting down and opening a bottle of butterbeer. Ron didn't answer. He was glaring at Hermione and Crumb, who were dancing nearby. Padma was sitting with her arms and legs crossed, one foot jiggling in time to the music. Every now and then, she threw a disgruntled look at Ron, who was completely ignoring her. Parvati sat down on Harry's other side, crossed her arms and legs too, and within minutes was asked to dance by a boy from book4. "You don't mind, do you, Harry?" Parvati said. "What?" said Harry, who was now watching Cho and Cedric. "Oh, never mind," snapped Parvati, and she went off with the boy from book4. When the song ended, she did not return. Hermione came over and sat down in Parvati's empty chair. She was a bit pink in the face from dancing. "Hi," said Harry. Ron didn't say anything. "It's hot, isn't it?" said Hermione, fanning herself with her hand. "Victor's just gone to get some drinks." Ron gave her a withering look. "Victor?" he said. "Hasn't he asked you to call him Vicky yet?" Hermione looked at him in surprise. "What's up with you?" she said. "If you don't know," said Ron scathingly, "I'm not going to tell you." Ron stared at him, then at Harry, who shrugged. "Ron, what? He's from Durmstrang," spat Ron. "He's competing against Harry, against Hogwarts. Ron was obviously casting around for words strong enough to describe Hermione's crime. "I'm fraternizing with the enemy. That's what you're doing." Hermione's mouth fell open. "Don't be so stupid," she said after a moment. "The enemy! Honestly, who's the one who was all excited when they saw him arrive? Who was the one who wanted his autograph? Who got a model of him up in their dormitory?" Ron chose to ignore this. "I suppose he asked you to come with him while you were both in the library?" "Yes, he did," said Hermione, the pink patches on her cheeks glowing more brightly. "So what?" "What happened? Trying to get him to join Spoo, were you?" "No, I wasn't. If you really want to know, he said he'd been coming up to the library every day to try and talk to me, but he hadn't been able to pluck up the courage." Hermione said this very quickly and blushed so deeply that she was the same color as Parvati's robes. "Yeah, well, that's his story," said Ron nastily. "And what's that supposed to mean?" "Obvious, isn't it? He's Karkaroff's student, isn't he? He knows who you hang around with. He's just trying to get close to Harry, to get inside information on him, or get enough to jinx him." Hermione looked as though Ron had slapped her. When she spoke, her voice quivered. "For your information, he hasn't asked me one single thing about Harry. Not what." Ron changed tack at the speed of light. "Then he's hoping you'll help him find out what his egg meant. I suppose you've been putting your heads together during those cozy little library sessions." "I never help him work out that egg," said Hermione, looking outraged. "Never. How could you say something like that? I want Harry to win the tournament. Harry knows that, don't you, Harry?" "You've got a funny way of showing it," sneered Ron. Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to read page 423. Peace out.